it was a long process. I was asked by Warner Brothers to come down and help Lindsey Buckingham finish a solo record, and we worked on that for quite some time, probably 4 or 5 months, and the rest of the band one at a time was really getting interested in getting in on that, and eventually everybody was on board, and it ended up, at that point, it was a Fleetwood Mac record, so we kept some of the stuff from Lindsey's, and then the band went in and rented a house in Bel Air and set up a studio there. We recorded a bunch of stuff there, then came over to my studio I had in Chatsworth at the time, and probably spent another 9 months or plus. It was a double album, so there was a lot of back and forth on what songs were going to be in it, and just a lot of songs to try to finish up. So it was a fun project to work on. It was great to work with the band and to get to be friends with all of them. My first, I guess, specific memory of that is when we actually started the album over at my studio in Chatsworth. They had wired the whole place with cameras, so there was literally nowhere in the studio that you could go that didn't have cameras and microphones recording everything, because they were making a DVD set of the recording of this record as well. So if you wanted to have any discussions that were off the record, I remember several times Lindsey and I we'd have to sneak outside separately there so we could we could actually talk about stuff we didn't actually maybe want to end up on the DVD. Let me take a second specific memory. Lindsey and I have worked on a bunch of projects since then as well, and we always find one moment where we kind of get a little heated, and I had one of those with Lindsey, but thankfully we took it outside, away from the cameras and the microphones. So we kind of finished that one out there and got back in with the session and finished the record up. My favorite tracks on the record are, I guess, Say You Will and also Bleed a Lover, which I was always just a big fan of that song. I don't know, there was a lot of songs on the record, so I think there was 18 plus the bonus cuts on the extended version, so there was a lot to choose from. Working on this record, but just to be part of it was, for me was, it always will be a really important moment in my life, just to work with the band and become friends with everybody, and then go on to work on a bunch of other projects with them. It's, everybody in the band was so talented, and I was such a fan growing up. I started listening to the original Fleetwood Mac in probably the early 60s. My sister would bring home some of the early Peter Green stuff, and I kind of grew up listening to a lot of that. So I had a pretty big history of listening to that band. It was so much fun to actually be part of putting a record together with them.